Hello and welcome to our new episode and our new show, Satoshi News versus Real World. So my name is Jörg Mold and I'm one of the founders of Satoshi and Satoshi School and Consulting Education Services for blockchain technology, AI, robotics and everything you want to need, and how to implement this technology today and how make it happen today. So I'm talking about the news today, and we will compare it to a world we can imagine in the next 50 years when we're talking about blockchain technology, AI, and we're talking about artificial intelligence, AI, what I said, and also we talk about robotics and the change of the society from an information technology society into a database and research society, which is leading us into a new dimension of understanding how people interact and how the world is changing by interacting of people, for example, in real time. So I believe that this technology is coming out, and one day we will see that everything is fine and we can see everything happens in the world today, and everything will be automatic, giving us the results we need. For example, you talk to someone about a new project, and then we can follow the whole chain, how people interact and talk each other, so you can see what this talk has done to a chain reaction of people and where the result is coming in or not, and then you are able maybe to change the way you talk to people and what you can do better in the next few points, and what you can explain more to the people to make them understand what your product is, what you're doing, and what you want to sell, for example, not only in the selling business, but also we can clarify about what it's about our our interactive, for example, in climate change or something like that. So you will see easily our world is changing now. You do not feel that at the moment because it's just in the building, and it is most behind the curtains, and we want to see what is changing, and we will compare it with this show to the real world. And that's why we talk about news. News are always a good and fascinating thing to make people understand how our world is going on. You see all the bad news, the good news, but how does this affect the news in the future? So is blockchain technology really changing our society in a way that everything is coming different out of that? Is the topic about banking and money on your own and all the stuff you heard about artificial intelligence and robotics, is that really changing a lot of things that we have issues today with? And I believe yes, it will change, and I will give you some very good common inspiring examples here to our news. And let's start over what's up in the news today. So one of the news says Trump wants to make an example on WikiLeaks Julian Assange, Kurt told. So what is that meaning? Julian Assange, many of you know him. He is a freedom fighter for one, and on the other hand, for a lot of people, he's an illegal victim. And on the other side, is he a criminal? So this is the main question in all of that. You have heard about that he should have raped someone in France, and now news told that police faked the news about and the reports about Julian Assange, and he is likely to be sentenced to prison for more than 170 years because not only Trump, and this is a thing we have to understand, it's not only about Trump. A lot of conservative Americans do not like the idea that someone is collecting data which are not meaningful for the power of the people. So they want to hide some information away, and they do not want to have people running something like WikiLeaks. And what happens? He was the first guy who was reporting about all the wars and the crime in the wars, and that's exactly what it is. He doesn't hurt people without it, and if lawyers now complain, he does point a finger on people with this WikiLeaks documents. And so he brought a lot of people which are lawyers fighting for the Americans and danger, and also their families and everything. This is only a dip of of a cream. I always say this is not that meaning in that. Thousands of people always will die in war. So, for example, we have seen how people were tricking to get into the Iraq war. So we have seen a lot of people coming out there with news, and then suddenly we find out that not everyone about the war was right and time. So it looks like after a couple of years now that the war was infringed, and then was it was an inflation of wrong informations to get into the war. I would say that was a war built by wrong informations. And of course, I'm a fan that we said, okay, we have to prevent something, but yes, you can see in this war, for example, with the Iraqis, you see a lot of the different opinions in there, and you see a lot of mistakes in there, and also misinformations. And WikiLeaks has done a lot of things to bring this misinformations on a higher level and bring this into a new light. So no one really wanted that, okay? So in this time, no one really wants to have the truth in there. And that's exactly what it is. When we talk about Assange, it is about that they want to make an example on Julian Assange. That's what the court told us in a trial. And US President Donald Trump is trying to make an example of Julian Assange. The WikiLeaks founders defense team argued in a London court Monday at the start of this extraordinary hearing. By publishing a trove of classified defense documents relating to Iraq and Afghanistan, Assange had revealed evidence of war crimes, his legal term said. Lawyers of the US government argued that by publishing the diplomatic cables in an unredacted form, Assange had put the lives of sources and informants in immediate danger and damaged the capabilities of US forces carrying out operations and abroad. So that's the thing it is. But there is another thing which is in there, and what we have to talk about if we talk about Julian Assange is the point that he said reporting or journalism is not a license for criminality. Louis told the court. In any case, Assange was not entitled to claim a journalism defense as he was not a journalist, Louis asked. And this is a question for you. Does it make sense, or does it change something if you're a journalist or not? Does it change something on the information that there are war crimes? I don't believe that. Because the situation is that there have been war crimes, and that this has consequences for the people doing the war crimes. So it doesn't matter if you're a journalist or not a journalist. It doesn't matter what happens to you. It doesn't matter what is the conclusion out of that. It is only about finding the truth, right? It's about what you see should what you get, and not what you see is nothing. What you get is nothing you can work with. It's nothing real information. It is based on the opinion of someone or something like that. If we want to understand this world and we want to understand what happens in the world, we need trust in the truth. And that's exactly what it is. The owner of the truth is the most dangerous part in how the world is going on and what we decide. Because the owner of the truth can change the truth into his terms and his opinions and viewpoints. So what you see, people say also Assange is a criminal, and if you see what he has done for the publicity to show that the world is not led by people who want us to know the trust, that's a different meaning. And this is not only on Donald Trump, or this is not only on someone else. This is only on the people around us. This is only about what we should use to be to see. But if we elect someone, and we elect the president, and we elect the whole party behind, they should go for our interests. And I don't believe that the interest to set Julian Assange into a terrible situation now because he was telling the truth is the right point, right? I don't believe that. And it's only not to make an example or something like that. Think about if we have to be afraid of telling the truth because someone is not fine with that. So, and we can be sent to prison because of that. Is it not more a dictator than a democratic way? I think this is a point we have to discuss for our topic, Satoshi against the rest of the world. And in the world, let's pretend we are in a world in 2050 where everything is fine, where our technology is based on blockchain, and our trust of sources are automatically updated and everything is fine. So in a world which people want to have, not a government want to have, or only a society want to live in, a totally, I would say, totally way of trust. What this is changing? First, we would have known what Assange has known. We also would have known what the government is knowing, because in a consent system, everyone is part of the informations and then they vote together. So no one really can exactly say, oh, we have done something wrong. For example, the war of Iraq. If the majority of people vote for the war of Iraq, because depending on informations from all over the world about Iraq and what Iraq has done or not has done, and then vote that we go for war, the whole world is standing behind this war. In this case, only a few people stand behind that war, and that makes the situation different. We have not the informations what's going on. If someone is telling you, for example, oh, they have chemical weapons and everything, the whole world want to see the clues then in a situation that we have a consent-based system. Because consent is something to find between a lot of people with different opinions, but must be based on the same informations, and no one has a different information or a more deep information, for example. That's why it is necessary to give access to all of the people to all informations anytime. And for example, we can see through cameras what happens in the world, we can see from satellite photos what happens in the world, but at the moment we do not have the right to access this data. I will give you another example what happens, the John F. Kennedy murderer. So maybe you remember this movie JFK from Oliver Stone. So when you see this movie from Oliver Stone, you see in the end, of the text, it's coming up that the files wouldn't be open until 2020 or 2018, 2017, 2016. So what happens is, under the Trump administration, it never has been open. So what do the people hide from us? It is the same they hide with Area 51. Is it the same they hide in everything? Is it really that? Is it really the point that they do not want to know? Because that's the reason why people have to act in the world. We are led all by our people we elected, and we voted for them because we want to have clarified. In a world of blockchain, AI and everything, we can create our own opinion because we can access data we haven't got access to. This should be the way how distributed ledger technology is changing the world. It is the main thing to change the world, and then clarify about the data, where they are coming from, and who is the owner of the data at the moment, the creation. So in a world where no one owns the data of creation, everything is clear. And I will tell you why. Because what happens will be recognized. Everything we do, every step we will do in the future is recognized by IoT-able devices. So what does it mean? So I'm recording this show here in my studio. So what happens is, in my studios, you will see what happens to the news where I get it from. For example, I read the news here from different news magazines. You will likely see that this is the trust of source I use. But now we can follow up, is this trust of source I use the same opinion over thousands of news? How many different news are there with the same topic, and is this the same way we look at the news that I do or someone else is doing? Is there a viewpoint in there maybe I missed in my opinion or something like that? All that we can recognize at the same time. We can see how people to interact to the show and what they're talking. So what we can do is we can bring all our news, all our informations worldwide in real time to a new qualified dimension. So this is necessary, because if you tell me today a Chinese guy was saying that, and another Chinese guy was saying that, and an Australian guy was saying whatever, and a German guy was saying whatever, so I have to trust in you, and I have not to trust into the source, because the source of you, of me, is you at that moment. So I can figure out if you're right or not. But if I just talk to you and at the same moment, for example, on my phone or something, it's coming up, popping up the news to what we're talking about, and I can read it, and also my opponent can opposite can read it in real time what happens. So we can talk in a totally different and more intelligent way than we have done before, because we can now talk from different point of views, because we see actually what happens. Also, we see actually what happens, for example, if we sitting in a live talk, for example, and people react and people talk, we can see what coming up in informations and what people think, for example, and what they lead to act. So for example, you say in an interview and you're an influencer, today we should go for a demonstration, and then we see that people organize this demonstration and will go for that. So this is a nice thing to see, but it is about trust and trustworthy and about the truth and where the truth is coming from. So this is really, really important. So we want to know in the future where our information is coming from and what's about our information and how to qualify of our information, and that's why we need this technology. So you can see this is a use case. You see in Assange, for example, with this technology, with blockchain and everything, we can easily say, okay, here it is, here's the Assange case. Look what Julian Assange has done in real, where he has been in real time, what he has leaked and what happens after the leaking, and who was accessing the informations, and what happens after that with the information, who was accessing it. So what, for example, has the CIA done about this information, how they use the information, and do they turn it upside down, or is it the same information at the beginning? So this is what we can track in the future if we are build a consent-based state. This is exactly what it is, and this is the only sinful use case of blockchain technology, artificial intelligence and robotics and cameras and all the thing of tracking today. Any other use case is that you have maybe heard about that more than 50% of the people now living in dictators. So think about this technology and think about if a dictator is using this technology, tracking these people and treat them in a way they do not want. So a lot of things is about privacy. So privacy doesn't mean that we hide information from people, but privacy needs to be understand that this is your free room where you can do your free speech, your free opinion and your free living. That's your privacy. So no one should have the right to touch your privacy. That's exactly what it is. It's not about going to the drug dealer and buy some drugs, but it's a privacy if you use drugs or not, right? It is a privacy if you go for a walk, if you go for a gym. It's a privacy what your kids doing. It's a privacy about everything. And privacy is not hiding something. If we want to stop crime and we want to stop people cheating people and for nothing, we have to change our system at home. We have to change the way how we can access information, and that makes it more secure and more reliable to everyone, no matter what he does in his privacy. And this is exactly that what blockchain is technology could change. Bitcoin is changing the way how we send our money, so we can save our privacy always, but in a world which is controlled by blockchains and every single step is controlled and everything, we need some privacy also, because freedom is about privacy. Every time in history people start to fight privacy, they lost. So what you have seen is, for example, we saw world wars, we have seen a lot of kingdoms fall, and we have seen a lot of fights lost because they disrespect the privacy of the people, and that means they lost the trust, and that means the truth was different from what we see. And no technology can ever change the mood of a person, how he is feeling about the people he has elected. And that's what we should take in care if we're talking about Julian Assange. So next we see in the news today, the US wants new nuclear weapons to counter Russia, but says there is no arms race. So what does it mean if the defense says we need the nuclear weapons? Is there necessary for this thing? So I think there is a lot of reasons why we should have nuclear weapons, because if we do not have nuclear weapons and another one has, he will bomb us, okay? This is not only a matter of the US, this is a matter worldwide. So if you say North Korea, for example, they are also afraid to have some bombs in their own country if they do not have their own. But the danger is not for these countries who are going and say, okay, likely if you go for a war with me, I will kill you with my atomic weapons. It's more about that we have a centralization. We have a planet. This ball is round and this ball is somewhere out in the space. And we do not know anything about the space out there. So imagine an undefined flying object is coming and is bombing a nuclear weapon station. What happens to our Earth? In a second, our Earth is destroyed. And this is something maybe you will say, wow, now he's talking about science fiction and is he far away from that what we can imagine? No. We are just a little ball with 7 billion people on the planet, which is so small in the universe. And this is exactly what I tell you. If we are so small in the universe, so other cultures will easily come one day, maybe then we are necessary for them, and will tell us what we have to do and not have to do, because they are more powerful weapons, they have more powerful technology and everything. But the main problem that we can't contact and get into the space in the universe and go for the universes, we waste our time, our money and everything in there to have wars each other. So the human race is being infected by a virus which is calling we can't keep freedom. And this is a hard thing to believe, right? But if you see the history, it was only a few persons who destroyed the freedom and everyone was aching about, until someone was coming and changing the whole way we think. And this is how we develop ourselves. War is something we do because it is in our nature in a way. So pacifists will say, oh my God, how can you think in that? But look what happens. We have a lot of periods of freedom, but the war started over again. So our population is always creating people who are not fine with discussion, who wants to change in a radical way because they want it so. Why do we do that? Look at our movies, for example. In our movies, we see always the bad guy. So think about, I know, you like Avengers, Endgames. Think about the theory of that guy who was saying, if we kill 50% of all the people out there, what happens? So we killed 50% of the good and 50% of the bad. But does it change the situation? No, they have a shock for the next 10 years, but after 10 years they will start war again, okay? This is exactly what we missed in this field. We are coming to the edge where we are when we're talking about nuclear weapons and everything. We can, with our weaponry, we can destroy this planet. So does it change something for the universe? No. Is it a matter to the universe if we destroy our planet and our human being itself? Is it something we should care about? We only have to care about because we have children. And this is exactly the way our population is thinking. So I would say if your child is not is in a good state, so you want to protect him and everything, yeah, you do not care about other people's children, right? This is only if you get money and you have a nanny or something like that. But from the normal point of view, you want the best for your children, and then you will say, okay, after me the rest, okay? So that's exactly how our population is working, and in a way that we are in a danger, that we kill ourselves, that we have to wear weapons, and that we have to go each other with that. We are not fine with that. So think about, in Germany it's carnival, and in Germany a car crashed just into a carnival track and was killing 10 people or something like that. So think about what happens here. It was one guy destroying the peace. On the other hand, we lead that. So the news are full of that. They will say, oh, awful, how could this guy do this, crashing with the car into that. Every news is reporting about, but no one is reporting about the children working and dying every day because they are misused by the people who want to sell the goods they are working for. So think about that thing. So every time now we are talking, every second, thousands of people dying around the globe, and we do not care about them because we do not know. And that's exactly what it is. If we know how it works, if we know why nuclear weapons to counter Russia is sad, if we know if there is a real danger or not, we do not talk all that stuff, okay? That's exactly what it is. Our knowledge is only in this little box. So if you want to reach the box here or here, you have to turn out of the box. You have to go higher in your mindset. You have to look from above down, and that's what we want to help you. It is about the technology here can help us to see things before we make a decision. So to have a simulation of what our decision is going on to do. That's another important point for our Internet of Things technology and everything. If we can see what a single decision is managed to use to do, then maybe we won't do that decision. And this is also in governments. So if we come to a consent system in governments, we have to see what happens. So for example, this news here, for example, is saying the scenario included a European contingency where you are conducting a war with Russia and Russia decides to use a low-yield limited nuclear weapon against a site on NATO territorial, and then you go through the conversation that you would have with the Secretary of Defense and the President ultimately to decide how to respond, a senior Department of Defense official told reports on Friday. So this is exactly what we do not have to decide anymore. So we do not have to talk to a senior Department of Defense official. We do not have to ask and answer what happens if Russia decides to use a low-yield limited nuclear weapon against the site of the NATO. This is not the question. The question is, we can see why they will do that, and we can see what happens to that point, and we can see what will happen if they act. So that can change the mindset in a more and more effective way than today. So because if we want to track everything and we want to track the results of people acting and everything, we have to track everyone, and there's no exception if you're the president of the world, if you are the financial minister of the world, or whoever you are, if you're a big star on the movie, if you're a star in chemics, physics, scientists, or whatever. It doesn't matter anymore because we can see what happens and we can forecast what happens if we do our steps we do. And then everyone knows that. So we can point a finger out on someone who is doing the first step, and that's necessary because if we want to kill the damage afterwards and we want to repair everything, we need to know where the first stone was thrown. And this is exactly what our technology can do. So Russia wouldn't start a war, the US wouldn't start a war, no one would start a war, because they can see in front of there was a decision made which leads me to think about a war. But on the other hand, with blockchain technology and everything in their AI and whatever, you never will ask your question why there is a war, everything, because you know there is no war, and the signs to get into a war you will see before. So you can talk to the people in a different way, you can find another solution, and everything is clear because now we see what happens in the world in real time to a decision. And that's the main point of blockchain technology and AI and future technologies like robotics and everything. Okay, let's go over, and another hot topic is always our air pollution. So we likely say, there is no climate control and there is no air pollution control in the world, but that's wrong. Think about 21 of the world's 30 cities with the worst air pollution are in India. So what happens in India? India is a huge country, and you want to manage 2 billion people. India's government is also slow. Think about the blockchain and cryptocurrency space, for example. There is no regulation at the moment, and there is likely no regulation coming. It's a gray soon where it is allowed to have Bitcoin, for example, but it's not allowed to build exchange or whatever. So India is very different from other countries also in the point of view and everything, but has a two-side society. I would say people is dying on the street, we have seen that, and on the other hand you have the rich. There is a real huge gap between the two worlds. But you see, the air pollution is coming from technology. So this is coming because the society is growing. There are a lot of parts of the society have more money than any other. So we will say, from an economy point of view, India is the 6th greatest nation at the moment. Okay, so we had the same when China was rising. Okay, China is growing, is polluting the air. That's exactly what happens if the society is growing, and that's another point for blockchain technology, I would say, for you. Because if they want to grow, we have to support them in growing, not to stop them from growing. Okay, this is the first thing we have to learn. If a country is growing and we support that country with knowledge and we do it in the right way, and they accept our knowledge, not that they say, oh, you will tell me what I have to do and what I have not to do. So this is the wrong way. So if we support them by a little bit knowledge and say, okay, maybe we can do a little business around that, and we will support you, and then we can stop the air pollution because we use different technology from the Western world, because we know how to manufacture now the things you need in a way, and we can show you how to do it without air pollution, and we can support you in a way that we say we want to be part of your growing, and that's why we get cheap prices for our knowledge now, for example. So this needs a lot of informations about what the industry is really needing most at the moment. And for example, I do not need something in the next 6 months, I need it now. So we have to address everyone who can deliver now for stopping this pollution, for example, with new technology. So this is a main character of blockchain technology and information technology, that we can see and our registries of entrance and timestamps and everything, who is actually working on solutions like that. So we can address this company, can say, hey, we have seen that you're working on air pollution systems in a construction area. So why do you not change the way you work with the technology? There's another company working on how to avoid air pollution at the moment with the same technology, and has a filter system maybe based, so we should connect you each other. So this is a new way, not to create competition, but create a common sense in economy. So this is leaving our our economy to a new point, that we can say, okay, we have all this technology, let's use this technology, let's come together, yeah, and let's go for a way that we can see, that we can show them examples what we have done, what it is now, and show them also what happens to our society, environment, and everything from this pollution. So there are different ways to do. They want to grow quick, and we need to support this quick growness. Okay, so we do not have to sit here and or just sitting here and talking about that we want to make ridiculous prices for our products. So I give you a good example. For example, in Bali, it's a nice island. Okay, many visitors come every year, but if you've seen all the plastic is swimming in the sea and everything, and they have also some fabrics to clean all the mess up. But this is coming from Swiss technology. So the Swiss people were building that, and it's very expensive for the people to support the systems. So the people do not go for bringing their waste somewhere, they throw it on the street again. That's exactly what happens. If the knowledge was coming to the island and someone was creating such factory against pollution with the people on the island, and just brought the knowledge, the people feel free, they are part of the success, and they are part of their own story. So this is when people accept it. And blockchain technology, AI and everything can show the people how they can use it. For example, a good example is Microsoft HoloLens. You can give each one of them, you can give such a virtual reality glass, and then they can see where the construction is to make, because it's projected directly in front of you to the thing you have to create or something like that. So you can teach people in that way really easy. But we have to support them with this technology. We have to support them how to use the technology, and we have to support the way and the supply chain, what happens after. We have to track if our systems and everything we give them comes to the result everyone wants. Not we want, not they want, but everyone wants. So this is necessary to understand. We want the common sense. Yeah, we want a consensus. We want to have a consensus between the people also. So if you go, for example, for Bali, in my example, you will change that way, because the people now involved in the whole process, and they can see what they create and who is everyone part of this creation. He can feel proud about that, what he is doing, okay? Giving him a sense of working again. So he's doing great things, and that's what we can support with knowledge, and we can show, oh, you built this item, and now the machine is nearly fulfilled, but see what happens in your surrounding, what will it do to the island. And we can simulate that thing, because we have all the data from all over the world, from similar environments, and then we can say, see, that's the creation process, and now we are here, and this is what it has changed until now. Because many people talk about things they can't see that they change. So this is another good point why we need all this data tracking, and why we need this big data collection. We need it for making useful, sinful examples how we can use the technology, and then we show out the power of data in real time in apps or whatever, where you can see what happens. So this is a very, very, very fun point. We do not want to talk about everything and everything. For example, I think Microsoft was saying today another thing which is for the people. Microsoft hopes its technology will help Americans trust voting again. So what happens is Microsoft is very deep in blockchain technologies, also supporting systems with Bitcoin. For example, Microsoft is the ID network, which is based on Bitcoin, where you do not need in the future your passport data or something like that. The Bitcoin blockchain is recording you as a person and is saying, okay, this person is real. So this is what they do with the decentralized ID network. So you do not have to show your passport anywhere. If you say, I'm this guy and the camera is watching you, the blockchain of Bitcoin, because it's unfraudable, will say to you, okay, this guy is real, and this is, for example, your mold. Okay, so this is what they have created on Bitcoin, because it's a secure system in the world, which is not driven by a company or interest. This is driven by the people and the user itself. So this is spread in a very, very, very nice way, and decentralized way. And if some people sitting here and say, yeah, and how can we be sure? Because this community is growing, more machines come, more miners come, more nodes come. Every day we're talking, and you can watch that in real time, and you can see the acceptance and adoption of Bitcoin technology is growing and growing every day. Even if this is a little spot on the landmark now, it is growing from that point to that point, and this means it will double and double and double until the end. So when voters in Fulton, Wisconsin arrived to cast their ballots in a local election Tuesday, the voting process looked a little different. Rather than the usual paper ballots, voters made their selection on digital tablets, loaded them onto plastic cards, outfitted with memory chips, and inserted them into a card reader that saved the votes into a computer and printed a paper copy of each ballot to be placed in the ballot box. So this is now the difficult way how to do this. Let's look what they have done. Okay, you go there, you get it, you make your vote on an iPad, for example. Then the iPad is transforming this data onto a chip card. This chip card coming out of the system. You go with your chip card to another box, putting in the chip card, and then you get a paper out of that. How funny that is! It's nice, but we can do it today, and this is funny why we do not do that, but we can do it in a short way. We can do it in a really, this is the beginning, okay, of course. But what we can do is also, we can create an app, we can connect it to the Bitcoin network, then you press A, B, C, D, whatever you want to vote, yeah, and then you have only one time, because it's an idea behind, and the idea is leading the system to recheck your personal data on the blockchain without having your data on the card or something like that, and then you make this vote, and then you can't vote again with this app. And then it's for sure, because there is a transaction code and a timestamp in the Bitcoin blockchain, which you get, and you can see, okay, this was my transaction, this was my time code, and you can see it because you have done it in your app and everything, and you show, and someone is saying, oh, you didn't vote A, you do vote B. You can prove by yourself that this person is lying. And this is so simple to do today, that it is so simple that no one is doing it. In our perfect blockchain world in 2050, we will see that this is normal, that people sitting at home and says, oh, election day, oh, let's look, yeah, this. And also, that's why we need blockchain and technology. We can see, okay, let's go for the Democrats, for example. Let's go for the Republicans. What do they promise 4 years before? Let's see what happens from that. Is there a great wall? Is there something changing in our society? Yes. It's a economy growing? I don't know. Or what is it about the people we elected? They are all communists, or they are all Republicans? They are all right wings, left wings, or what? What are people? Will they change their minds from that what they were voted for? So we can see online, and we can see for our computer. We can see that, and then we can say, oh yeah, no, today they failed in so much ways in the last 4 years. I will press C. So that's exactly what this technology is changing. But we need a consensus rule that everyone is accepted that our generation is changing the people now sitting in their chairs. They do not want to have this technology. So it's on us to change that world. It's on us to make a new start, a restart, press replay and do it again better way. Okay? That's on us. To create a consent system is always in time on us. So this consent is still operate. How does this Me Too vote coming? Me Too is is in the end of the day something that people suppressed by sexual abuse. So that's exactly what happens. So and now Weinstein has been charged for that. And what is doing? He's aching and then he comes into the hospital. That's always what happens when people realize that their game is over, right? So I don't feel worried about him, because what it is about is that sexual assault and rape case is being hailed as a turning point in the Me Too movement, but his attorneys say he never had a chance at a fair trial. This is not about a fair trial. He should have said, yes, I have done it and I'm worried about it. He said never something like that about it. Yes. And this is exactly what it is. Weinstein faces a minimum of 5 years and a maximum of more than 2 decades in prison. He was handcuffed and taken into custody after the New York jury's verdict. On Monday night, Weinstein was taken to New York's Bellevue Hospital after began feeling chest pains and having heart palpitation and high blood pressure, and so on and so on. We know another case from Jeff. You know, this is not something we should laugh about. This is not something we should take care in a way that it is not there. That's why we need blockchain technology. That's why we need all this tracking also. We can easily prove, and he can easily prove, if he has done alright in a consensus-based system where everything he has done in his life was record. If, for example, a woman is victim of guys like Weinstein or like Epstein or something like that. So think about that, people. If you're a victim of them, you're afraid to say something in the publicity, right? But what you can do in the future with blockchain technology and Bitcoin is, you can send your own message and your transaction to the system. It can say, today I was raped by them, and for the future I do not want to go for the offices now because I'm too afraid that something is coming over me and will hurt me. But for the future I do this record here, and I say at the moment I am alone in my room and recording this because it's secure to do, because we are using the Bitcoin blockchain, that I have been raped by this person, and yeah. And then I make a video and send it also into this blockchain system, okay? Or I do not send it there, but I must protect this with blockchain technology or maybe Bitcoin technology, okay? So then, after the years, I can exactly show that out. I can directly say, okay, this date stamp and this transaction code is leading to a PDF where I have a file in there where I make a record, and this you can see was created this time before, and it's same like this, and no one does not believe you anymore. Everyone can now see what happens, exactly what it is. And this is the weapon of the future for people misused, abused in the world. And you should vote for that technology. You should go for that technology. You should visit the courses. You should visit classes to learn this technology, to how you can use that. The victims of the world have to use this technology to have a proof against the world who is charging them. Okay, that's exactly. Because everything we do has a beginning and has an end. But if someone is asking how does it begin after 20 years, you have art, right? Yeah, and that's what we can change with the technology. Okay, that's exactly what it is. And so this was the news for today, and it was very lovely to have you here again. And yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to tell you in this world of technology, breakdown through the real world. And if it is a vision out there for the people and they want to have hope, there's one thing you have to say about every single moment we create something like that. If you're a coder, if you are a developer, whatever you is, you're running a company, ask yourself, where's your ethic?